Oh my gosh. Hi.
I feel so official with like my notebook and my notes ready to go.
It looks official. The sweater's draped around. It's a look.
I feel like the sweater's coming unraveled, but that doesn't matter, does it? Because we're back after a week off.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. Welcome back, Madison.
Thanks. Welcome back to you too.
Thanks.
I was thinking about this because I was watching like the first few seconds of someone's video on YouTube and they introduced themselves and I was like, that's so good because we obviously know people who listen to us know our names, but like new people, they don't.
Hi, I'm Tess.
And I'm Madison.
And we've been doing this for like 3 years now. So we're so glad you finally found us.
Yeah, we are. Welcome.
And if you are new and you just heard that we took a week off, you're like, why? Why would they do such a thing? This is clearly so fun. I'm loving this.
You would think they want to do it every single week, which we do want to.
Which we do.
But then sometimes.
So I grew up with my mom who had this philosophy of we just need a mental health day every once in a while. And what that meant was once every 3-ish months, she'd just pull us out of school and we would go do anything. It could be as simple as we just stayed home from school that day and we hung around the house, or it could be that we went to Malibu or our local lake and we had a day in the sun.
Amazing.
And I really have carried that with me through my adulthood because I really feel like sometimes you just have to honor skipping out on routine. You just need to go create a little fun, stir it up, reinvigorate yourself, take a break. Because if you're just constantly in your routine, which I love consistency, I love dedication, all of that stuff means a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes being able to hit pause on that and go do you and just take a moment to reset, that is equally as important.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of power in that. And I was thinking about this last week when we were taking this mental health day and we were saying all these reasons as to why we should. And I was like, yes, it is a justification as to why we're taking a break to make ourselves feel better. But we also truly believe in like the healing power, literally, that just a day or a week, however long you need, of taking time to yourself and getting out of your routine it's really helpful.
Yeah, because sometimes if you're pushing too hard and you can feel it, right? You get to that point where you're like, this is going to go one of two ways and both aren't great.
Yeah.
I need to pause and recalibrate so I can come back and feel like, okay, I've actually had a minute of rest. And it doesn't even matter what the day, if you play hooky for a day, right? Like we did. Typically we record on one day, we edit the next, we publish it on whatever. You don't need to know the schedule. What you need to know is we played hooky.
Yeah,
on our
we
podcast.
did. And we needed it really bad because we really care about this and we care about how we show up, like not only in the world, but also on this podcast. Like this is our bread and butter, mentally speaking. So we didn't want to come on here and be sad. Like for context, that weekend, okay, so I came back home on Monday and that's usually the day that we record. And Tess walked in the door and she was like, how are you? And I was like, honestly, I feel really emotional today. And I just like started crying. And that's mostly why we took a day or a week off of the podcast, is because I was just feeling it. And I did not want to be on the podcast faking it. So
no, I mean, what we do here is we're just very honest with what we're experiencing and what we're thinking and feeling. And it didn't feel right to come on when you're in that headspace because you're just kind of, I don't want to say you're vulnerable, but you are, right? Like when you're there, at least for me speaking, I don't need to put myself out into the world.
Yes.
I need to go in. I need to like put my little barriers up and just figure it out. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think talking it out is great.
No, it's true. I was going to say there's a time and a place because like we've said this on a podcast before that speaking is healing. And that's like a known thing that yes, it is. And like telling our stories is healing. And when you're sad, maybe that would help you. But specifically in that scenario last week, it was just, I needed to be just like sheltered. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So speaking in our households was healing for me, not on the podcast.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is it doesn't need to be a public thing sometimes. Mm-hmm. We bring a lot of our stuff that we deal with in private out into the public and we share it with you guys on the podcast. But sometimes it's just...
I'm like, do I need to share this? Is this going to benefit?
Right. What's the value add here other than someone maybe goes, oh gosh, I do that too. I'm so glad I'm not alone. But I think it's maybe helpful to talk about it once you're kind of out of that state of mind.
No, yeah. Now I feel like pretty detached from it. So it's like I can say that and not feel anything of like, I need to be sheltered. I'm like, no, I was just having a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that happens.
Yeah. It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Do you want to go into like, because I think it could be an important segue. Do you want to go into maybe like what was making you feel that way, or do you want to just...
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because we did write this down. So we both like brought notes, and it's so cute that we did that. I think like it's really helpful to write stuff down. Don't
I know,
you
instead
think?
of going on my phone.
Yes.
I feel also just way more present knowing that my phone is not in my
No,
hand.
and I also like to like keep these notes. Like I think like in a year from now, I'm gonna like have all these and be like, oh my God, this is what we talked about, versus like having to actually go back and listen, you know? Mm-hmm. Okay, so yes. Well, there's a many things that contributed to last week's mood, I guess you could say, is that the weekend was like such a good weekend. Like, you know, when you come off like a high and then there's a little bit of a depression, not like I was actually depressed, but just like a decline. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what happened. I was with family all weekend and it was just like soul food and my cup was fucking full. And then Monday hit and I was like, oh my God, there's so many things that I need to deal with right now. And me and Tess were talking about this. It's like once I realize something, like something is uncovered to me, I don't know, through my subconscious or whatever, I think about it. It's like I can't push the monster away. It's like I need to deal with this right now. If that means that I have to cry, all right, I gotta cry. If that means I need to find a solution or like just tell someone about it, whatever the first step is, like I have to do this right now. So what I was telling Tess is when I was crying, what was overwhelming me is my current job, which yes, I am so grateful to have a job. And like, I could say so many good things because there are a lot of pros to this specific job, but I constantly like have pushback against whatever is within me, some belief that I have that like my job is like sort of defining of who I am. Mm-hmm. And since this job that I currently have is, I just feel no attachment to it besides it gives me a paycheck. And like, there are a few other things that I don't need to mention, but it's not for me, like on a soul level. And so like, that's why it's hard for me to go through it some days. Cause I'm just like, what is the actual point of this? And like, I'm putting a lot of pressure on this job. And I do logically know that jobs like don't define you, but like, it is just some belief that I have that I need to let go.
Okay. Well, when we think about jobs, right? Like a lot of times it's because it is a good majority of how you spend your time. So you feel this need to have it be something that you feel connected to, right? Because you don't know how long life is going to be and you want to feel like what I'm doing matters and it's gonna...
like I want to live like a purposeful life. And so like you're saying, like, and I'm not even trying to like argue with the point that you're going to say, but just like I do spend a lot of time on this. So that is why I get that pushback, is because I'm like, I want to be purposeful. Like this work to me and my definition of what purposeful means is not, it's just not.
Yeah. And so I totally see that. And I feel that for myself as well. But I think the slippery slope is you want to feel purposeful, but then you feel like you have to apply it to every area of your life and you have to apply it now. Mm-hmm. So then all of a sudden this wave of overwhelm happens where it's like anything that doesn't fit that title in my brain of this feels purposeful, I feel connected. Now, oh my God, I hate it. I need to change it.
It's so bad.
Now I'm panicked because now I need to find something else. And how am I going to find that? And when's that going to happen? And it just becomes this snowball that doesn't need to happen. Mm-hmm. The way I think about a job at this moment in time is like, yes, ideally it is those things. It is purposeful. You do feel connected. It brings you joy in some regard. However, sometimes that's not the way it is. And you have to take away the positives from what it does give you, right? So when we analyzed Madison's situation and like what this provides for her, we realized, okay, it provides you with a lot of time to spend diving into yourself on, you know, an intellectual and a soul level, spiritual level, where if you had a more consuming job that had you physically in office for more hours and it was like, let's call it like a sexier, more powerful, whatever.
Yeah, like
we
I'm a
want to call it.
CEO of whatever. Yeah.
If you were in that role where you were proud to share with people what you, quote, did for a living, that might hinder where you are on that realm. And you do place a lot of value in that. And that's something that you this year set out to achieve. You wanted to go more spiritual with yourself. You really wanted to crack open what was going on inner. And so when I think about where you're at, I'm like, no, this does serve you. I know that it feels frustrating because on paper, it's not exactly what you would ever picture for yourself. But in reality, it is giving you lots of time and energy to put into things like Cowboys, which fuels your soul and gives you time to sit out in the sunlight as you're working, because that fuels you. Like, I know that you know all this, but I'm saying it for them because maybe you're in a similar situation and you just need to be reminded of, oh, I know that it's not perfect in how I would paint the picture, but it doesn't have to drag me down where now I'm in a spiral. Like, it's okay to feel the feelings. It's okay to look at it for what it is, but getting yourself back out of the pit and bouncing back to, okay, I can do this, I'm okay, I think is where that's like the sweet spot you want to hit.
Yeah. And most days I think exactly this way, but then sometimes it was like a moment of panic because I think like this is going to be forever. Like there's no, like I have my blinders on in such a negative way where I'm like, there's no other way out of this. Like this is my route from here on out. Like I can't do this. And then so was my headspace.
Well, it's cyclical, right? I mean, I've definitely been there
sure
too.
Is.
Where you're like, okay, this is awful. I'm gonna just uproot everything.
Yeah, and then I'm like,
180.
have had these realizations before, and it is cyclical, which is funny because like I have the realization, and I'm like, okay, I work a little bit, I'm out of it, and then it happens again, and I'm like, okay, where's the progress? Like I'm still in this, you know.
And then it's worse second time around because you're like, I've done nothing to change my circumstances.
Yeah, no, straight up. But it's true. The deeper that I go into the specific cycle, like I do realize in talking to you and like my dad just like opened my eyes more, because it's like I have conversations in my head all the time. Like I need to hear from people who know me and love me.
Yeah.
And knowing like, yes, I do have more time to like seek like self-improvement work and like go inward and do all those things. I'm like, you're right. That is worth like working this job fully, because I know that like this is like a very big part of like my life story. I think like this moment in time, like I feel like serious transformation. And so I'm just going to ride it out and see.
Yeah. I don't envy what you do on the computer. You know, that doesn't look fun, but I do see how you're able to pour back into yourself because of that role. And I'm like, that I'm jealous of. Like, yes, I'm like inspired. I don't want to say I'm jealous of it, but I'm inspired by it. And I'm like, that helps me see it from an outside perspective, what I should value. And I'm someone who values career for sure, but I'm someone who values health and well-being and like my community way more than the career. And so I'm always going to pedal to the metal on those ends, even though I am, if you've been listening for a while, you know, like I do prioritize work a lot and sometimes more than I should, because I'm going above what it requires. And
I would say that just your job is so different, like if we're doing a comparison to my job, because like a lot of people depend on you.
Yeah.
So I could see like why that is so taxing. Like you need to be there a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, so that's just the conversation of career. And like, if you're in that spot, you're not alone. Especially, I feel like in your late 20s and you're figuring this all out and you feel like, okay, am I a career person? What does my career need to look like? Is it like awful that I'm doing
dude.
this?
And this is another thing, is that I was thinking like typically, and I don't even think I was relating it to my age of like, oh my God, I'm going to turn 30 this year. Like, where am I on the corporate ladder? Like, I've never really given a fuck about that, to be honest.
You don't even want to be a part of it.
I do not want to. But then it's like so weird because I see that is like a huge thing in our culture and I don't want to be a part of it, but it's still recording.
Okay, my eyes are bad. I was like,
no, you'd hear
I thought
it.
I heard the click.
Oh, okay. I think it was the couch creaking. But like society, I understand like corporate ladder important and like I don't want to be a part of that. But then there's some part of me also that like feels bad that I'm not. It's like
but
a
that's
very
because
weird.
because it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So then you feel like, for me, how I can relate to that is some of my best friends have done that route, right? And super successful, and were really able to kind of achieve these milestones that I definitely want for myself, but I'm not there yet. You know, bought a house, the whole thing, nice cars, nice bags, nice wardrobe. And I'm like, all of those material things, like I would love that too. But when I think about what they did on a day-to-day basis, I'm like, I don't know if I'd want to do that.
Right. Right.
You know, so what's the trade-off?
Yes.
Right? Like, you got to go in the office every day. You got to be on meetings all day long.
Dude, I know. I
don't know. I mean,
I don't know if I'm made for that.
A 401k and benefits sounds really sexy. It does. It does. I'll admit
like,
it. Like,
having to do
some
that
days
work,
I think, but I don't know.
I know. It's really funny because me and Tess like took a little break and we sat on our balcony, and it just gets like the sunlight just hits it, and it's just really beautiful. Like I feel seriously blessed for our balcony.
If you saw our balcony, you'd be like,
that's not, but
that's
it is,
the beautiful
it's like
balcony,
literally a sacred space for us. I swear, like it's perfect. And there's corporate offices like across the way, and we always see people like walking out on campus, like out for their lunch break, and they're dressed in their, you know, business casual wear. And Tessa's just like, could you imagine like that would be you right now every day?
Yes.
Versus this. Which that is awesome. But
some
like
people love it.
Sometimes
people thrive
it's not
in it.
for everyone.
If I had to put on kitten heels and slacks, I'm saying on a personal level, I could not. But I am so impressed when I see people at the grocery store and they're dressed up in their business outfits.
Me too, because I'm like, boss bitch.
Way to
like,
go.
That's inspiring to me. Mm-hmm. I want to be a boss bitch too. Just not take that route, but in denim and a crop top.
So that's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly.
So please subscribe to our page. Thanks so much. That's going to help us achieve this magical goal.
Please. We want a grander balcony.
Okay.
But also wait, let me just finish this thought. She's very on the to-do list. Another thing, just to add this little small thing, is that last week what helped me get out of my funk too was reassurance. Like it wasn't even, I didn't even know that I needed it, but just someone to be like, no, you're doing a good job. Like you are. And once that hit, I was like, oh my God, okay, I'm good. So like if you have someone in your life who will tell you that, or just be honest with you. It doesn't have to be like someone who's lying to you saying you're doing a good job when you're not, but just like be straightforward, like someone who knows you and they can tell you exactly like, hey, I think this.
Yeah.
Like, thank you. I needed that.
Can we talk about something else that's been like a compare and contrast situation?
Yeah.
Okay. If you guys are new here, I got engaged like 2 weeks ago.
Oh
really
my
exciting.
God, congratulations.
Thanks. Also, the last episode we recorded, I spent like a good 15 minutes talking about how I was feeling like I couldn't post my engagement online, which we've come so far. I posted it. You guys have been amazing. You've been so kind about it. But
I know, that's so great. I was actually thinking one little thing, we can go back to your thought, is that sometimes I think like we forget, like things happen in our life that make us forget like who we are and who we like to, or what we like to do. And I think like there were incidents that caused you to not want to post that. And so you kind of forgot like, oh, this is something I'm proud of. I'm not going to share. And so once we talked it out, again, speaking is healing, and we talked it out on the podcast, it was kind of like, oh my God, what the fuck kind of moment. Now I remember who I am. Now I know that like I like to share this shit, and I'm going to show and celebrate my love.
Yeah. Like I'm confident in who I am and the decisions I make. And here
That's
it is,
right.
everybody.
This is me. Yeah.
Yeah. Which also, you guys, quick moment on that before we move on to my other thought. So many of you reached out because we recorded that, I think, on a Monday or Tuesday, and then it came out on Wednesday. And you guys were flooding me with messages saying, no, you need to post it. We want to see it. We love it. We're like, do it. And it was that extra kick of like, you're right. What am I not doing it for? And I had kind of reached that conclusion with Madison before that. But then you guys sending me the messages was like, okay, go. And I did it. And the response was great. And even if it wasn't great, I still would have been proud of myself for posting it.
Yes. And one last thing I'm going to say about this is that I actually wrote this in my notes because at the beginning of like, this is connected, I swear, but at the beginning of like yoga classes, sometimes they're like, oh, what is your mantra for the class? Or like, what are you going to take into this class? Whatever. So mine recently has been sure-footed. And not only like physically, like I want to be very strong, like in my body and like feet to the ground, like grounded, but also spiritually. Jesus, there's too many. There's an R in there. I got fucked up with my R's.
If you're new here, also, hi, welcome. We're introducing you to a lot on this episode. Madison did have troubles with her R's.
Dude, I had
up,
a speech pathologist.
Yes.
I literally could not use my R's.
And you're amazing now.
Yeah, now they're
Just
they're definitely better. Yeah. Thank God there's no R's in the Conscious Cowboys. You know, I feel like that would really fuck me. So anyway, sure-footed. Like I always think about that. And I think like as women, that's like a very powerful thing that we need to be, like just sure-footed at all times. And so I was thinking that like for you, decision making, like sure-footed, not only in your body, but also mentally and like your actions.
I love it. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
A little download in the brain. That's going to stick with me.
Yeah. Good.
Anyways. Okay. So back to, I got engaged. And if you're new here.
Yeah. I was like, what were we talking about?
If you're new here, Madison is on the market. Fucking fine piece of real estate right here.
Oh God.
Okay? She is. She's on the market. But she's kind of like it's like a private seller thing, right? Like it's not blasted
it's
on
exclusive.
the market. Yeah. It's like, you know, you happen to know the homeowner and you ask, is this house for sale?
Dude, that's funny.
Anyways, when your best friend, business partner, roommate, sister gets engaged, and you're basically part of it, people will tell you, don't worry, you're next.
Yes.
And
yes.
I understand the sentiment, right? In case you were feeling like you're getting left in the dust, don't worry, you're next. Love it.
Yes.
However, I don't think it's necessary.
Right. Okay, so I have many thoughts on this. And yeah, okay, I'm like, where do I even want to start? I didn't even think about that. Like naturally, yes, there would be some comparison done of like when you get engaged, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm like feel pretty far from getting engaged. Like, should I feel bad about that? But there wasn't even that thought. Like I was just like so overwhelmingly happy for you and Phil that it like trumped any ideas if I were to have that at all. So yeah, that's number one. And then I do think it is interesting that people would reach out. And I do feel the need to say this, Kiani, if you're listening, you're not included in this conversation.
Okay.
Like your message was so kind and like, yes, I could like actually read it over in my head because it's like so encouraging and lovely. But anyway, so I don't even know where I want to go with it, but I was going to say that this is like a moment that was brought to me, I guess, when people are like, oh, you're next. And I thought like, okay, so if people like, if there are other people in this situation, which obviously that there are, and like someone in my situation might be doubting like their path. And like, that is such a like thing in my life specifically is like not doubting myself and like my worth. And I feel like a lot of people around me, even this last weekend when we were in the company of parents and they were saying like, oh, what's wrong with my kids? Like they're not married yet. Like, oh my God. And I'm standing there like single as fuck. And I'm just like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with us.
There's nothing wrong.
But there's just like, there's something so like, there's like a moral goodness to like getting married and being in a partnership. And especially in regards to women, like when you're single and that's not your path just yet, people look down on it. And that just is the harsh truth.
What's wrong with her?
Yeah, exactly.
Like
something must be wrong. Yeah, exactly. Time's ticking, all that bullshit. And so I think it is really interesting because I've heard that like since I was a kid and now I'm an adult and I'm experiencing comments like that. And I just think like, okay, I never thought like that would be me. But since it is me, like how am I handling this right now? And the thing is that I feel like I don't actually have to handle it because it is just my reality that I've accepted. And like do remind myself that like I am on the right path and that I need to trust in what's happening and how it's playing out, and that there is no one way to live life, obviously, which I think we preach on this podcast all the time, but it's worth repeating things because I do also think there's a lot of power in like repeating things. And so, yeah, I feel like that's just like the piece that I have with it is that there is no one way to live this life. And I'm so happy for my loved ones who are getting married. And yeah, I guess I am next. I don't know, you know, like I don't feel any negative emotions towards it. I am happy that it was brought to my attention of like, oh, you're next. Like, don't feel sad, you know, just so that I was able to have that contrast of like how sure-footed I feel in my path versus like, oh shit, people would kind of be bummed out about this. Like, oh, my friend's engaged. Like, fuck, where's my guy?
Yeah. So much to say here, right? I mean, truly, everyone's path is different. So if you're starting to doubt yourself, reel it back into, well, if you're single right now, how are you spending your time? Like, I observe Madison and I'm like, the self-development that goes on in your life because you have time for that right now is amazing. And maybe not everybody spends their singlehood developing themselves in those ways, but you do. And it's really impressive. And I think whenever your person or whoever you find love with comes your way, you will be so yourself because you have spent so much time with yourself. You know how to date yourself. You know how to make yourself food. You know how to take yourself to yoga. You know how to run errands. You know how to go to the beach by yourself. You know how to entertain yourself on a Sunday morning, right? You are so Madison that whoever comes your way is going to get the full essence of you, right? Like you are, as you were saying a million times over, sure-footed. That's really attractive for someone. I love Madison because I know who she is, right?
Yeah.
So you spending all this time with yourself is not a bad thing. And just because you haven't found what you're looking for in somebody else doesn't mean that you're not lovable or you're not worthy or you're behind. Like you just haven't found that with someone that you actually want to invest more time in. Have you been on dates? Sure. Yeah, of course. Have you been interested in people? Flings, flirts, this, that? Of course. But it hasn't been right for your soul yet. And so you're not diving in. And not that you need me to preach to you or explain yourself on the podcast, but I think sometimes it's nice for someone to hold the mirror up and go, no, I see
it's
it.
honestly necessary. Yeah. Like we were saying before, like reassurance. Like sometimes I just need that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was actually thinking about it too, is that like I grew up with women and I still have women in my life who deem a lot of their worth being in a partnership. And so you and I have talked about this like privately before, is that I think like I went so far like south away from that idea that like I wanted to stand so strong on my own. And that's like exactly what's happening until I find that person that does like light my soul on fire, you know? So
I agree. I mean, I grew up, we both come from divorced families and I told myself like, I want to be financially independent. I want to this, I want to that. I don't ever want to get divorced. Like when you're young and you experience something like that, you really kind of set like standards for yourself, right? And you're like, I'm going to uphold this. And 3-4 years ago, I knew that I would someday want to get married, but it did feel really far from me. And there was times where I totally doubted if marriage was even something that I wanted to do. Having Philip now, my whole belief system, everything about myself, my whole essence, I think has changed.
For sure.
I think I'm way softer and more feminine now. And Philip and I were talking about this the other day and why we think that is. And I think we just complement each other very well in that way. But my whole world has changed recently. And I just feel like when those things come, it happens, you know it, you feel it, and you go with it. So any doubt you have or have had in the past, it just disintegrates.
Yeah. And I will say that like if anyone is single and they're like really doubting themselves on their path, like even if you are single and you're not in a partnership, like you are still worthy. Like, absolutely. You are worthy on your own. You don't need someone to live a fulfilling and beautiful life. It just is a part of it if you happen to find that person.
I mean, the same thing applies with career, with monetary success, with anything, right? You can sit here and compare and contrast yourself to another being all day long.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get really tired and really bummed out.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, it sounds so like tacky to go, well, that's the beauty and how unique all of our stories are, but it's true.
Yeah, it is true.
And it would be like really fun if you also were engaged and we were planning our weddings together.
Yeah, I would love that, obviously.
But I think there's something so beautiful about being able to celebrate your friends for the paths that they're on and celebrate yourself for the path that you're on, right? Like, I was shy to share that I got engaged. Why? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's because I didn't want people to feel bad. We already talked about this, but it's like, everyone can celebrate each other, and cool for you that that's your path right now, and cool for me that this is my path.
Yeah, I was actually writing that down in my notes the other day of like how proud I am that thought did not enter my mind of like, oh my God, when is it my turn?
Yeah.
You know, like making it about me. And I was like, I'm very proud that like I am so happy for you and Phil. Like, that just brings me so much joy. I'm not even thinking about me.
Yeah. I'm proud of you
that's
too.
Good. Yeah. Especially because we want to support women like as much as possible. And I don't want to tear any of them down or you. Right. So I'm like, that's just not in my fucking wheelhouse. Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thanks.
I think I let it in a little hot where I was like, I don't think that's necessary for you to make that comment. But that does bring me back to my original thought, and the reason I said it in that way, because my overarching thing, whether it's relationships, career, whatever, if someone gets something, it doesn't have anything to do with you.
Right.
Right? So me getting engaged doesn't have a damn thing to do with Miss Madison.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Madison getting fill in the blank doesn't have a goddamn thing to do with me, because it's your life and your thing, and do it. Right? So I think whenever we go back to that thought of, oh, well, this happened in someone's life, what does that mean for you? It doesn't mean anything for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You are still on your little trajectory, and now this person's on theirs.
Yeah.
Maybe I just reiterated myself, but I felt like I had to close out my thought. No, I think that was
good. I thought that was helpful.
Last thing I feel like major topic we can touch on. You like my list? This is really helpful. I'm going to do this every week.
Dude, I'm going to do it too. Mostly so that I can keep them and look back on them.
Yeah, totally. We were talking about kind of, obviously this past week, we had to take a mental health day, overwhelm, right? This morning, I felt really sluggish. I felt tired. I didn't sleep well last night. That's probably part of it. But I just felt like, you know, when your responsibilities, you just feel disorganized, cluttered. There's a lot. It's heavy. You're tired. You're just overwhelmed, right? And I was talking to Madison about it, and she's like, how are you? And I was like, I'm good. And she's like, are you really good? Or are you just saying that? Half and half, right? Like, deep down, I know I'm okay. But right now, I just don't feel great. And she's like, okay. We talked about resilience, right? And how do you lighten the load mentally without actually physically lightening the load? How can you find peace, find whatever you need while you still have responsibilities in life? And I thought that was a really interesting topic, and I'm glad you brought it up. And I'm curious how you lighten your load without lightening the load.
Okay, so I actually did not write answers down for this. I just prompted the question.
Ad-lib,
so let's fucking do this. Okay, so
you're pretty good at this. This is kind of your forte.
Do you think so? I seriously do.
Don't you guys agree? Madison's kind of good at this. Let's hear it.
No, oh my God. Okay,
Pressure's
so
on.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, what
Sorry.
do I say? No, it's okay. I don't feel
I also have things written down, so if you need, we can call upon them.
Well, okay, so when I was saying this prompt originally, and I was saying that okay, usually a lot of times we can't lighten the load, but sometimes we can. So I was saying to Tess, maybe delegate some things to other people if you can, or save something for tomorrow or the next day. Okay, that's easy. That's number one. And then building resilience, we've definitely talked about this before, but I think it's just, again, I'll bring it back to like the sure-footed thing, like being strong in self. So whatever those tasks are that help you achieve that. So I guess for me, if I'm feeling like very overwhelmed, like I need to slow down more. And that is very helpful because obviously it just like slows other things down in your life. Like I'm able to like make sure decisions and I'm just able to fucking breathe, you know? So slowing down, whether that means like going to a yoga class, and like you and I have experienced this, like we go to Slow Flow is what the class is called on Mondays, and it forces you to slow down because we're running 1,000,000 miles per hour on a Monday, probably every day. And we don't even realize it until you get into class and everyone's silent and the music's quiet and you're like, okay, so we're coming to a halt actually now. So let's sit in this. And it's a little uncomfortable. And then you kind of ease into it. And I think it also like, it helps with a lot of things when we do that. So like, okay, if yoga's your thing, a workout, whatever it is, a walk, great. Obviously reading is for me. That's like number one right now, is just to like sit with myself and allow myself to be calm and in my body and maybe escape off into like a dream world. And once I do things that fill my cup more, I'm able to be more resilient to the outside forces that jump on me when I least expect it. Yes, it does. It's like an attack and you're like, and yeah, oh my God, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, but I'm fucking strong as fuck. Yeah, and I can stand strong and go against this thing.
Okay, I love it. Of course, my first thing that I wrote down was slow down. Yes, not only because you can fill yourself up and that makes you more resilient, which I love the way you put it, because that's yes, totally. But also slow down. So like the way I think of it is my reality is my reality, right? My responsibilities exist. Some of them I can delegate. Some of them are not of major importance and can be set aside for another time when I have more space mentally, emotionally, whatever it may be. But I think slowing down, because not only am I enjoying myself more and I'm enjoying other people, but it's the other way around. Nobody wants a frantic Tess. If you've ever met her, she's not my favorite person. And I don't want to put myself in any situation. So if I can slow down and just bring that energy down a little bit, that's going to help. And for me, I'm someone that needs to make a list. And it's helpful if, don't worry about the order in the beginning. Write down anything that comes to your head. What do you got floating in your ether? What do you have to get done? You know, and then you start to break it out. Okay, short-term responsibilities. What is like high priority? However your list makes sense. Does it make sense to organize it by priority? Does it make sense to organize it by efficiency? What about like destination? Like, does it make sense to go do this because they're all in one area? Every list is going to look a little bit different. So you have to figure out what is going to make most sense for you, your day and your week. But being able to break it down like that, so it's not just, okay, add in, some chillness so you can just center yourself. But it's also like when I'm struggling and I'm up to my eyes in it, that's how I get out. I'm like, pause, make a list. What do I have going on? Okay, organize it this way. Now execute. And if I have a list, the crossing off is the most satisfying thing ever. And I'm
Dude,
like,
it is.
I am successful. Look at me
Yeah, you
go.
feel proud of yourself. You're like, I did this. I can do more things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that that's helpful. And I think that's pretty common sense. We all know how to make a list, but it works for me.
Yeah, but sometimes I know that making a list is beneficial and I don't make the list. So like it's worth hearing it. Again, it's worth repeating.
Yeah. And another way that if you're like me, you need this, with my list, I have to kind of make a schedule. So I go through my weeks and I'll write Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? And I'll write out where I know I have like my obligations. And then I have to schedule in enough time for commuting and eating, because I don't factor those into the equation that often. And then Madison sees me, I run out of the house. I'm like, oh, gotta go. She's like, did you eat?
Yeah.
No. And this sounds like really rudimentary stuff. I'm aware. I'm an adult who hasn't quite figured these two things out yet. So if you're like me, factor in time for food and commute. I almost said commutation. Commuting.
It's okay. You just outed yourself.
Those
like no one would have thought that you were going to say that.
I'm just too honest.
Yeah. We're too authentic.
Just that's me.
Yeah.
But those two things really bite you in the ass. If you're not well fed and on time,
you're not resilient.
You do not feel okay. So those two things can help you really feel okay. You're like, nope, I really don't want to go do this right now, but at least I have food in my stomach and I'm on time.
Yeah, I fully agree. Like those are the basics.
Basic human needs.
Yes, yes. Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Okay, great.
I have more things on my list, but I feel like we can actually save them for next week.
Love it. My knee hurts from sitting like that. Ow.
Dude, I just actually thought, I was like, my neck is hurting. I think it's because like my head has been up. I don't know. It's fine. We're fine. We're doing good.
I would also, before we leave, I'd like to make one comment and then we're going to truly sign off.
Okay. Well, actually, probably not. Maybe like a few more minutes if we're being realistic, but go ahead.
Okay. I just want to apologize to everyone who watches our YouTube for covering our feet. I know that this is a major letdown for you guys. The amount of comments about feet on the channel is really something.
What is that? Like, do YouTube like watchers watch for feet? Because if you do, like, we'll show you our feet, but you just have to pay a price, you know? Like, I'm being dead serious.
But okay, here's my thing is, that is like, okay, so I know foot fetishes exist.
Yes.
Obviously. But that is such an open fetish. Like, that people will comment on things for your feet.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that's interesting. I'm just observing it. I'm like, wow, that's like a whole community out there that's out on the prowl commenting.
Yes. It's, we can't even hate on it. Like, honestly, we find a lot of joy in reading those comments. So thank you.
I loved the arm wrestling one.
Dude, someone asked if we could arm wrestle.
They're like, how about arm wrestling? How about it? What about it?
Maybe we'll surprise one day. I don't know.
Madison's been going to a lot of yoga. She might beat me quick.
I don't know. You have a strong upper body. I feel like you would beat my fucking ass. Yeah.
You guys see those boys?
I know.
Anyways.
Anyway, a few like leaving comments that I wrote down in my notes as some pieces that have been like sparking conversation or just like are thought provoking, like in our household. If not now, when? That's a good one. Obviously, we've heard that a million times.
Yeah, I was going to say, you haven't heard that one before, have you?
But if you haven't, then I feel really special. I'm the first one that told you about it. But it's a good reminder. If not now, when? Like, we have to use that. Like, I have to think about that all the time, especially with Cowboys. Or, like, even if I want to post on Instagram, I'm just like, if not now, when? Like, why are you sitting on this? Just fucking do it.
Why has that been in your draft for 3 weeks?
I'm dead at that. Seriously is yes. It's not right. Like, who cares? Just post it.
I know.
So then I do. I just like get in these moods where I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna post it right this second, and then I do. Anyway, another thing I saw, dude, I was laughing at this today on Tumblr, which no one might think this was funny, but I saw this text post that said, "This too shall pass," and then underneath it said, "Hurry up." I was like, dude, that's my fucking humor. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. And then another thing that I saw the other day last is when life is too controlled, there becomes less and less life to control. And I was like, this would have spoken to me like really deeply. I don't know if I would have received it well when I was younger. Like when I was, for example, like controlling what I ate too much. And that controlled like every aspect of my life. And I did have less life because I held on too tightly to things. Like I tried to control every little thing. So then I shut out life. And I was like, that like was a very powerful thing that I read a few days ago. And I was like, I had to write it down.
No, that's so good. Even in like, I think about, I was having a conversation with someone recently about kind of how they control someone in their life. Like they're just like, oh, like he just doesn't do this or that, or the way that he lives is just so different from me. And like, and I'm like, but that's life. Like him coming into the situation is variety. It's like,
it's a spark. It adds a little bit of spice.
Isn't it nice to not be with your clone?
Dude, it fucking is.
Sometimes I look at, you and Philip, I'm like, wow, we're so similar, yet we are so different.
Yes.
And I'm grateful for it because it's perspectives that I don't already have in my head or are not accessing at the moment. It's plans, it's opportunities, it's conversation. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was good because especially like when I was younger, I feel like I thought, and maybe sometimes I still do think this with certain things. I can't like name these examples, but like I thought that like surrendering my control on things was like seen as weakness. Like I was like, no, that's fucking weak. But now I'm like, it's actually freedom. So
Love it.
food for thought.
Great.
Yeah, that was all on
Okay.
my list.
I feel like that's a nice, sweet spot to end on.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. Yay. Thanks.
Good job.
Thanks for having us back this week, guys.
Yeah.
We missed you.
Yeah, it feels really good to be back.
Leave some comments. Please not about our feet. And
I mean, you totally can. I think that they're really fun to read.
okay, please leave comments about
No,
our feet.
don't call it. I'm just
Flood
saying
us.
we're open. No, fuck, that's scary.
Open the feet floodgates.
Yeah.
And make sure you're subscribed, you guys, because those numbers help us so much.
And always thanks for the love for people who send it to us. We really appreciate it more than you know.
Amen. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Talk soon.
Bye.